What's up, marketing legends, and welcome to another episode of the Growth Colony podcast. I'm producer Liza from X Growth to tell you that each episode we bring in B2B leaders to chat about how you can achieve those everyday wins in the marketing world. Whether you're new to the B2B game, working at a leadership level, or even just showing some interest, we know you'll love the episode. So wherever you are, get comfy and enjoy the show.
Welcome to the Growth Colony podcast again, everyone. I'm your host, Shaheen Hoda, and today it is truly a special day, and we have a special episode. Joining us is a guest I deeply respect, someone who I've read many of his books. He's the innovative mind behind Profit First, The Pumpkin Plan, and his latest, Get Different, Mike Michalowicz. Mike, it's an absolute pleasure having you on the podcast. Thank you for jumping on.
Thanks, Shaheen. It's good to be here with you. How do we pull this off?
Yeah, me too. I'm super glad. And you know, as I just said really quickly in the intro, I've read so many of your books. The Clockwork. I mean, I didn't mention all of your books, but you know, a lot of them have drastically changed the way I look at something and I approach business. And the very first advice I have for anyone who's listening to this is just maybe pause the podcast, go buy the books. So that's the intro. But you know, I really want to touch on your new book, Get Different. And I was so glad that you wrote a book that very specifically focused on marketing, which is our area. And I know it goes beyond marketing, but you know, it to some degree it covers that. So let's do a quick intro for people who might have not read the book or might have not come across it. You know, you talk about it's not about being the best, it's about being different. And that's really the core of the message of the book. Can you give us a high level of what is the book is about? Why did you write it?
Sure. Yeah, it was so great. We were hanging out in Melbourne and we had a chance to chit chat about it. And what my research indicated, what my experience is, and yours too, is that better or best is very hard to notice. And the example I share is if we are in competing businesses and I answer the phone in one ring and you answer the phone in two rings, I can argue I'm better. It's twice as fast, but it's something the customer wouldn't notice. My website might be good and yours may be great, but does the customer really notice and does it influence them? What does work is being different because it is a pathway into our mind. So the premise of the book is understanding how the human mind operates and how it's designed, in fact, to filter out almost everything. So right now, if someone's listening in, hopefully they find it's an engaging conversation. They can leverage it to improve their business and their life. Right now, there's a million different stimuli happening behind the scenes. There could be a phone ringing. There could be a pen laying on your table, or maybe you're driving your vehicle. If our mind took in all of the stimuli happening at any given time, it would actually overwhelm us, and our mind would not literally explode, but at least figuratively explode. So the mind is designed to ignore almost everything, including our marketing, or especially our marketing. So to get through the mind, there's only three gateways in: through threats. So if someone poses physical harm of some sort, some other form of harm, it goes into the mind and we access it. But that's threat marketing ain't the marketing we should do. Opportunity, known opportunities, meaning if I throw money on the table and say, hey, we got to talk, guarantee you'll pay attention because you're seeing something that you know is an opportunity, but very costly and also triggers suspicion. The other and only other pathway into someone's mind is with unexpected stuff. Because when something is unexpected, the mind says, I don't know if this is a threat. I don't know if it's an opportunity, or maybe this is something I can ignore in the future, but I have to evaluate it. So your marketing always has to lead with something where the human mind says, I have to evaluate this.
Well, let's actually first touch on this. There's a concept you have in the book, which is the DAD framework, right? I have a question on the back of this, but I think it would be good to unpack the DAD framework because it's just such a simple framework for people to think about. And then I have follow-up questions to this. So can we first unpack the DAD framework?
Yeah. So there's three distinct stages to this, and this is what accesses people's minds, but also moves your marketing forward. So the first stage we already talked about is being different. The key element here is whatever your competition is doing to market is likely the most ignorable marketing because the mind very quickly adapts. The example I used when we were meeting was was the Hey Friend email. There was a time when emails went out, I don't know how long ago now, maybe 10 years ago, that started off with Hey Friend. The very first time I received it, and perhaps when you did, it's like, oh, this is different. Who's my friend? Like it actually causes confusion. That's the power of different. It causes us to have to comprehend. But you only get about a millisecond. And then we start reading through it and say, oh, this is marketing. Now the mind is programmed to say anytime a Hey Friend email comes, that is the email to ignore. It's called habituation. So as marketing or marketers for our business, we need to evaluate what is the established norm and what is something for our community that they haven't seen before or seen in a really long time, and it re-triggers the mind. So that's different. The next part is it needs to be attractive. Being different for different sake doesn't do much. I could be wearing a clown costume right now and say, I want to be the zaniest podcast guest you've ever had. People will notice, but it may not be attractive in this context. They may discount me and say, what's Bozo the Clown doing here? So different only gets you about a millisecond of attention. Attractive keeps that attention. So how do you attract? You have to speak to someone's interest. Entertainment is a great way of doing it. Here the Super Bowl is about to happen. I think it's a global thing now. The NFL is about to have the two teams play. But the biggest part is our commercials. People are anticipating it. Why do they anticipate it? Because these commercials will be unique, different for the traditional commercials out there. They always are. Secondly, it's fresh. They've never seen it before. And thirdly, they're attractive, meaning you look at it and there's a compelling story. It makes you laugh or it makes you cry, but it engages you. So what's attractive to your audience? You have to engage them through some kind of storytelling. And it can be in seconds, but they have to see movement and shift and feel some form of emotion. Hey, this fixed the problem. This feels good. Oh, I can empathize with that person or that situation. They got to feel something. And the last part is D for direct. Now you have to tell them what to do with it. And it's ironic. These Super Bowl commercials will fall short on it inevitably. Budweiser always runs a commercial for their beer. And it'll be likely some compelling story and you feel emotion and it's a beautiful scene. At the end, they'll say, Budweiser, the best beer on the planet, or at least they say it is. And we all know it ain't. but no, they don't say, hey, send us an email and get your free 6-pack or scan this QR code and get a coupon. That's a direct. A direct is where we give the consumer specific, explicit direction that is manageable. So they don't say, come to the Budweiser factory for an hour tour, and at the end of the tour, you'll get a 6-pack. It's overwhelming. They simply wanted to make a small ask. And Budweiser would get literally millions of people submitting it. You and I, we can't miss that opportunity. Budweiser, and this is true, has a $6 billion with a B, $6 billion US dollars of a budget every year just for marketing. They can afford just to spread the word. We need to have a call to action. The reminder is it needs to be big enough that there's a currency exchange. The customer or prospect needs to do something, give you their email or something. That's the currency. In exchange, they get some value, but it can't be so big that overwhelms them and they're fearful of doing it. That's the direct.
That's very interesting. I mean, there's this whole concept of, we're doing this as a brand marketing activity, right? Like we're building the brand. We don't want to ask anything from anybody. Correct me if I'm wrong or if I'm, not getting this properly, but my understanding is that you're saying that's fine for the big companies. Let them do their brand work. But for smaller companies, the SMBs of this world, we need to have an ask because we can't afford to wait for brand to take effect. Is that fair to say, or is there some?
That's pretty fair, and I'll give a little more context. So, picking on Budweiser, their budget's so big, they probably got access to my mind 2 or 3 times today. Maybe when I was driving to the gas station to refuel the tank, and there's a sign for Budweiser. When I drive by the liquor store, they sponsor the liquor store by having a sign in there, and maybe a television commercial. See, they get a lot of passes at us, and they're playing a different game. They're trying to get the mind space that they are top of mind. So when we're in the decision matrix saying, I'd like to get a 6-pack of beer, that because we've seen them so frequently, it actually builds trust. It's another form of behavioral influence is the more frequently we experience something or someone, the more we inherently trust it. That's a long, expensive game, and it works, but small businesses don't. So I can be a personal brand, and I realize I'm trying to build my presence, but I better be saying subscribe at the end of the video. That is a currency exchange. Devote some of your time and effort to paying more attention to me, and I promise in exchange to give you more entertainment, more information, more knowledge. but we have to have some kind of ask to them that builds a tighter and tighter relationship and an opportunity for us to be in more frequent communication with them and them wanting to receive that more frequent communication.
I want to touch on another concept in your book. And I think this is a quote from somebody where they say, hey, I don't want to have a marketing plan. I want to have an attention plan.
Yeah.
And there's a massive concept in your book that you're talking about different, but you're talking about ways that you can create ways that you could grab attention. And there are 3 stages you talk about in the book, but attention is the first phase. So you got to grab their attention. And you do this in so many interesting ways. And one way that just comes straight to my mind is, when you go on your website, I can't tell you how many times I pressed that play button to pronounce your name. Mm-hmm. I don't know if, the one that you have in the corner and it's like, how do you pronounce my name? And then you just press and there's another one and there's another one and there's another one. And then you're like, sorry, are you still here? What are you doing?
What are you crazy?
I love it. Yeah. I loved it.
Thank you.
But I'd love to expound a little bit on that in terms of what is this concept of you need to have an attention plan?
Yeah. So most people, myself included, say, what's the cost for marketing? What's the cost for advertising? We don't ask what's the cost for attention. And just by framing it that way, it's kind of eye-opening. What's the cost for attention? Because a ad on a social media platform maybe costs 10 cents per click. Fine. But what's the cost for attention? Well, the only way to win in that game is now volume. So there's only another way through habituation, and it's the Chinese water torture technique. If threats, opportunities, and something different presents itself. But if something becomes a nuisance, it's a version of a threat. So Chinese water torture is that dripping water that comes on you when it happens the first time, like, it's nothing. The 100th time, it's like, the 1,000th time, it becomes this nuisance, which is actually a threat technique. So in marketing through social media, it's this repetition, which actually becomes a nuisance. So people notice, but sometimes will be frustrated. God, this person's always in front of me. You actually may have felt that feeling, and it can build disengagement. So the question is, I got to spend 10 cents every ad. I got to spend $100 for someone to take an action, and they may be in a nuisance situation. So that's the cost for attention is $100. That's the measure I want to look at. If I can do something else, is the cost for attention less or different? I just need to evaluate that. The idea of attention is, what is the effort I need to make financially or otherwise that results in someone activating a currency exchange, the direct, that they click on subscribe, or they send me the email, or they visit my website, or they pick up the phone. That is what we need to measure. That's what the cost of attention is.
So it's important to kind of think about it that way. And then the attention plan, is that the core component around the attention plan, or that gets baked into it? Because I also think, you have a whole methodology of, all right, how are we going to capture that attention? Right.
Correct. And it gets baked into it is the cost. So going back to the website, when you visit the website, what I did is I first said, what does all my contemporaries do? And there's these standard designs. So the first thing is like, okay, that is the hardest way to get attention. So I won't do that. What are the elements that they have? And some of them, people have difficult names, mine included, and they'll actually have a pronunciation key. So I said, okay, what can I do that will garner an exchange, a currency exchange, meaning you get some benefit. That's an entertainment play. And in exchange, I don't ask, it's natural, is I want you to click again. And now we're having this playful, albeit digitized experience of you engaging. And that's a currency exchange. I run the attention cost analysis. I'm like, my gosh, that cost me less than pennies. And I talk with folks like, gosh, I'm trying to run this TikTok thing. I get, if I get 300 views on my TikTok video, it's insane. I got to pay for this boosting, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I feel visit my website and I get 30 clicks on average on my website. People are getting comfortable with it because they're getting entertained. The cost for me is $0 except for hosting my website. That's kind of the analysis I go through. What are the elements in all your advertising that gets particularly people wanting to engage with you? That's the attractive factor of attention.
I want to ask Mike about what's your recommendation? People listen to this and like, oh, great. Got to be different. Got to do different things. What is the ideation process for coming up with different ideas?
The first thing is there's a great fear around it. It's so ironic. It is the weirdest human dilemma is that we want to be noticed, yet be unnoticeable. We want to stand out without standing out. So there's a compulsion like, look at me, but please don't look at me. So what we first need to do is say, what is the homeostasis for the slow alligator claw of look at me? The first thing you always do is you look at your competition, your market. And the reason why you look at your competition, if I'm an author, I just look at other authors. If I have a auto mechanic shop, I look at other auto mechanics because they are intentionally targeting the same audience. Now I want to look at the messaging that's going to them. I'll give you an example. There was a photography industry I worked with. They take portraits and stuff in the graduation season from university. And I asked photographers, how do you market? And this was a massive audience. It was 5,000 people. So we did a survey before the event. And all of them were the same. I think there was 3 strategies. You send out a postcard with your favorite portrait. You run an ad on the local placemat at a diner or food eater, at an eatery, and maybe something else. So first you evaluate what is everyone else doing. That is the stuff that will be the most costly to get attention. It is the hardest way to do it. And people become habituated to it. It's actually a nuisance and don't like it. So then I say, what are the alternatives I can do? One technique is I use the opposite technique. I say, well, if everyone does this, what's kind of the reverse of it? With photographers, everyone sends out postcards with the intention of hoping people will be so enamored by these portraits, they'll say, I want a portrait like that. I said, okay, we're not going to send out portraits. Why don't we send out just frames? This is an actual experiment we did. We sent out blank frames to our target audience, our customer. So in the mail, you get a blank frame, but there was a note in there. In the frame, it said, almost all pictures go into the cloud, but the ones you cherish go into frames. We're the photography studio that will make the pictures you will forever cherish. And it was mind-blowing. Now, the funny thing is it's the same message. We'll make amazing photos for you, but instead of demonstrating the photos, they allowed the people to imagine their own photo in a frame. But that wasn't even it. It was the different part of receiving a frame, which you never received in the mail before. And phone calls exploded. So what's everyone doing? What's the opposite? Another technique, I won't go through too many because I could just go on, is to steal from other industries or other countries. When I was visiting you down in Australia, there's things that are just amazing. Like you have food items we don't have up here. Vegemite's the obvious one, but I would say most of America, we have no idea what it is. Just introducing that could be remarkable. If I'm the restaurant here that says, try these sample bites like everyone else does, and now I'm trying something with Vegemite, it's remarkably different. You can steal ideas from other countries. There's one restaurant in the U.S. that exploded this way called Macaroni Grill. It's a chain restaurant. The owner, his name was Phil Romano, went to Italy, looked at Italian cafes, noticed that they have live singers and jugs of wine where it just sits on your table and you pour your own wine. It's unheard of here in the States. He did that. And at the end of the meal, they simply ask you, the patron, how many glasses of wine did you have so we can bill you? It's on the honor system. And it blew people's minds. It was so different. And the restaurant exploded in popularity. So steal from others outside your country, steal from other industries. What does no one do in your industry? And do the opposite of what your folks are doing. And that will get you started in this ideation. But have the courage to say, look at me. Because the funny thing is, most people still won't look at you. We're so scared that, the world's eyes will be on us, that people will criticize us. My competition will laugh me out of the business. And the reality is you'll get some more eyeballs. You won't get all of them. Your competition will maybe notice, but they won't even have the courage to repeat it. That's the greatest irony of it all. I've done that. Listen, spell my name thing on my website. Tell people it's a game changer in clicks and action on your website. People talk about it. And 0 other authors have done it because it's a little too edgy. It's a little too crazy. That's the funny thing. Very few people steal different. They're afraid.
I love it. We got a couple more minutes. I want to ask you a couple of rapid fire questions before we wrap up, Mike. The first question is, what is one resource? This could be a book, a blog, a podcast, whatever it is that you've come across in the past, maybe 3 to 6 months that you were very impressed, had a pretty big impact on you. What comes to mind?
I'll give you something absolutely ridiculous because you've probably never heard of this. The World Almanac. I have it right here on my shelf. I'm going to back up and show you. This is comes out every year. I don't get it every year. Every crazy fact on the planet is in here. And when I go into it, it just starts mind-blowing conversations with myself and mind-blowing research. You can find so many ways to enhance your business, enhance your life, just by looking at different perspectives. And this book is just packed with different perspectives. I love it.
That is, that's great.
Yeah,
that's a great answer.
The thing is, you flip to any page and you'll dig in for an hour. The voting system in Vermont just came up. Didn't even know they had a special voting system. Africa, the country of I'll probably study the continent of Africa now for the next hour. It's wild.
I love it. I love it. Okay. If you could give one advice to marketers, what would it be?
Listen to wallets, not words. In other words, we think a prospect or customer will love our stuff because they say, oh my gosh, I'll totally buy that, or that's a great idea, I'm all in. Wallets speak the truth. When people have to pony up money, that's the reality. So whenever you have an idea or something you're considering, don't say, here's my idea. Say, here's my idea, plus I'm taking deposits now. If no one puts down a deposit, bad idea.
Mike, who are some of the people that you follow? Some of the, whatever you want to call them, thought leaders or people that you respect and you listen to?
I love Malcolm Gladwell, one of my favorites, but Bob Burg is the author of The Go-Giver, has some cool stuff. There's a guy, he's not that popular, but I think he's like one of the best minds in the space. His name is Roger Dooley. He wrote a book called Brainfluence, another book called Friction, which should be the biggest book in the world. And it just was something that never spread like wildfire. The guy's a genius on what causes human and business connection. Don Miller, I'm just in love with him and his work. Jay Papasan, he's the co-author of The One Thing with Gary Keller. The guy is a genius, just an absolute genius. Yeah, I can go on and on. I just love learning from the other experts and reading their stuff.
Last question. I'm going to get a cheeky question in at the end. I don't know if I'm going to get an answer to it or not. But before that question, what is something that you're super excited moving forward for this year?
A TV show. I just got engaged to do my first television series. I'm hosting it. It's a business makeover show, and it's lined up through Vizio, which is a TV manufacturer, which is owned by Walmart here in the U.S. They're making their own streaming channel. They're going after Netflix, Amazon Prime, which are the big streaming channels here in the States, and they gave me a call and said, we want you to host a show. I'm excited.
It's going to be definitely something to watch.
We'll see.
Definitely something.
Filming starts in March.
Oh, that's awesome. Last question. I don't know if I'm going to get an answer to this, but who is the guru that you talk about in the book that you have a picture of that you absolutely hate?
Oh, it's a real person. Won't say her or his name. I can't answer that. But I think it actually is important for us to have a nemesis. Now, this person's actually an ideology too. There's this community of experts. I don't know if that's the right word. They are, I'm sure, very talented at what they do. But there's this broy machismo, like, I'm right, you're wrong, because I'm successful and you're not. You're an idiot, and follow me. And I think it's nasty and so inauthentic and just plasticky. So I believe it's my responsibility and folks like you, all of us, to rise. The good guy, I call it the good guys. The good guys got to rise up and not beat the bad guys, but elbow them out with good stuff. We got to be of extraordinary service. That's how we fight back.
Mike, I want to say thank you so much for coming on the podcast and dropping all these golden nuggets.
Thanks for having me.
Today's episode of Growth Colony was produced by Liza Maywald and Alexander Hipwell. It was edited by Dave Samito with additional editing by Liza Maywald and music arrangement by Liza and Alexander. Special thanks to Tina Wabe, we couldn't make this show without you. This episode was hosted by Shaheen Hoda, Director of Growth at Xgrowth. If you enjoyed the podcast, please subscribe and give us a rating on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. If you'd like to know more about Growth Colony, check out our newsletter and subscribe with the link in the pod description. Do you think you'd be a great guest or just interested in a chat? Send through an email at podcast@xgrowth.com.au. That's podcast@xgrowth.com.au. Or fill out the form in the description. That's all for now. We'll catch you next week right here on Growth Colony.